vehicle, okay?
When you're on the job, you're focused on the job. Doing what you do best. Saving lives. You probably don't give a second thought to the lights that enable you to see what you need to see to do that job, or that warn drivers you are on the job. But those drivers may be seeing something very different than you're seeing. This is the same scene, but this is how the oncoming driver sees it. Is everything so clear to you now? What's happening? Which way do you go? What and who can you see? If there are too many lights, they are intense, facing a certain way, or the lights don't provide visual cues on what to do, drivers may misread what's up ahead, and that what is you. How should emergency warning lights be configured and deployed for maximum visibility? First, let's see what the research says. Recent and ongoing research is establishing that emergency warning devices play a crucial role in the visibility of the scene to approaching motorists. However, the characteristics of these optical warning devices, how they are deployed at a scene, and the interaction with scene lighting can also potentially disorient and/or distract drivers as they approach. Disoriented and distracted drivers pose a threat to responders, other motorists, and themselves. What guidance can the research give us about effective deployment of emergency warning devices?
We're talking about emergency lighting because it's one of the most important tools we have in emergency services. It helps us to get to an incident scene initially by asking for the right-of-way from traffic in front of us. Once we arrive at the scene, it's part of our safety package that helps protect our personnel, the victims who are responding to help in the first place, and the motorists who are trying to navigate past the scene. There are so many different types of emergency lighting that are available these days that part of our research is to try and figure out what the best configuration is for the kind of emergency lights that we have on our vehicles: police cars, fire trucks, ambulances, safety service patrols, tow trucks, and all the other emergency vehicles that come to a crash scene, to determine the best way to keep the scene safe for our personnel and to provide for safe passage of motorists who are trying to navigate past the scene. Well, one of the things we've heard loud and clear from the motoring public, truckers, and other people who have approached emergency scenes in the last few years is that some of the new emergency lighting that's available nowadays is just too bright. It's actually obscuring their ability to see people moving around an incident scene at an emergency. So one of the things that we're trying to determine is, are there better ways to set up our lighting at an emergency scene so we still provide protection for the personnel that are working there, but also so that people who are trying to pass the incident scene under the direction of law enforcement officers can do it safely and still be able to see the personnel on the ground around the vehicle. Are they too bright? Are there too many lights illuminated? Should we reduce some of the lighting? Do we need to have them brighter in some places? The flash pattern that's on them, the use of traffic directional arrows and other devices, all of this blends together, and for many people who are trying to pass an accident scene nowadays, it's just a confusing mess of lights and they can't tell what's going on. It's very confusing to them, very distracting, and does not necessarily make the scene safer for us. No. One of the things we have to remember is the color of the emergency lights that are used varies by state. It's developed by state law, it's dictated by state law, and the researchers really don't have much to say in it. So in some states, red lights are used by every emergency vehicle. In other states, blue lights are used by police departments in some of the states in the Northeast, blue lights are used by volunteer firefighters and EMS personnel. Amber lights are typically associated with tow trucks, utility vehicles, and Department of Transportation. That's pretty consistent nationwide, but the use of red and blue and white lights, and in some places even green lights, varies from state to state based on state law. When it comes to the technology of the lights themselves, LEDs versus strobe lights versus incandescents and halogen lights and things like that, it's mostly a factor of technology getting better as we move forward. Most packages these days are LED lights. A lot more flexibility, less of a pull on the electrical system in the emergency vehicles, a lot of advantages to LED technology. But the new LED technology has also introduced very bright warning lights that are distracting to the motoring public and is causing some of the visibility issues with vehicles that are trying to pass emergency scenes, in that the warning lights are overpowering their ability to see personnel at the scene. I don't think there is much research being done on this particular subject, especially when we talk about the moth to the flame principle. I think that's anecdotal. I don't think there's any science behind that we can point to right now. When it comes to the colors of lighting, we know that some colors show up better at different times of the day. Certain colors are better during daylight conditions, and other colors are better during nighttime conditions. But state law dictates what color emergency warning lights you're going to have on your vehicle based on what state you're located in. So we don't always have control over picking and choosing which colors we might want to use at an incident scene. I think what we're looking for is people to do research to help guide us on the appropriate use of the warning lights that are used out there on the roadways today. Flash patterns, the color and intensity of the lighting. There are some companies now who are selling light packages that have high power, low power switches on them. The intent is that at nighttime, when it's dark out, the emergency lighting can use the low power setting, which reduces the intensity of the lighting and still allows it to be seen by the passing motorists, but does not overwhelm them or affect their means of seeing people on the ground near the incident scene itself. We need somebody or some organization to do the research to give us the scientific support or backing for what we think might be the best way to set up emergency lights at an incident scene. We know when it comes to roadway incidents that we can do a better job of temporary traffic control. It's not all about bigger, brighter, faster lights. It's about how we set up the incident scene so that the motorists can tell where they're supposed to go to get past the scene, if in fact we can allow them to pass the scene safely. In some cases, we have to block the road completely. In other situations, like we're simulating tonight in this particular scenario, we'll be able to set up temporary traffic control devices, including advanced warning signs, traffic cones, flares in some cases, and manual traffic control from law enforcement officers or fire police officers to help the motorists navigate past the scene safely. So a big emphasis on temporary traffic controls will help us a lot. The better and more complete temporary traffic control device that we have set out, the less we need to depend on the emergency warning lights that we have on our vehicles. And we can actually start to shut down some of those lights at an incident scene. When we're looking for a safer scene, first thing is we want to make sure that we've got some sort of advanced warning in advance of the incident scene to tell the motoring public something unusual is going on up ahead. You need to sit up and pay attention. We can do that with signs. We can do that with vehicles, police cars, safety service patrols, fire police vehicles, arrow boards from the Department of Transportation, variable message signs in some cases. At least let people know there's something going on. Then as they get close to the incident scene, we want to guide them by the use of flares and cones and manual traffic control past the incident scene safely. Motorists are looking for direction. Where do you want me to go? Where am I supposed to go to get past the scene? They don't want to be stopped in the middle of the highway. They want to be able to travel past, and we have to give them some direction. We do that with the cones and the flares and the manual traffic control. For our personnel at the scene, we are very concerned about their safety and the possibility of being struck by a passing vehicle. One of the things we do is use our vehicles in a blocking fashion so that cars coming by or near the incident scene will not be able to enter into the work area where our personnel are actually doing extrication, fighting a fire, helping with a medical assist call, or whatever the situation may be. We use our blocking vehicles extensively to protect the personnel, but at the same time, personnel have to take equipment off of the trucks and off of the gear periodically. We want them to be wearing high visibility, either turnout gear and helmets, high visibility vests, high visibility jackets, or something that motorists will be able to see them as they move around the vehicles in the area where they might be exposed to passing traffic.
There are nuances to the type, color, placement, and patterning of optical warning devices to balance advanced warning, visibility, and traffic directional information. The recommendations on how to deploy emergency optical warning devices are not cut and dried, not well known, and not consistently practiced. In addition, each state sets its own regulations for the type and color of optical warning devices to be used on different emergency vehicles. Therefore, there is little consistency across states. So what can the individual responder do? In truth, we don't have as much research as we would like on many aspects of emergency lighting, including the most visible and informative color, intensity, location, and flash pattern. Nor do we fully understand what contributes to drivers feeling confused or disoriented. And as a first responder, you don't have much control over the lamp color or the type of light. Those decisions are made by the state and by local agency administrators. But you do have control over how you deploy what you have at any given scene. Here are some best practices that will improve how you deploy emergency lighting at a roadway incident. 1. Once the response vehicle is parked, follow light shedding protocols and evaluate whether to turn off forward-facing white lights. Bright forward-facing lights can cause visibility problems for oncoming drivers that they may describe as glare or blinding. The Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices recommends that if good traffic controls have been established at a traffic incident scene, responders reduce or extinguish forward-facing emergency vehicle lighting, especially on divided roadways. This reduces glare and distractions to oncoming road users. For the same reason, floodlights or vehicle headlights that are not needed for illumination or notification should be turned off at night. Similarly, direct any overhead white lighting down toward the work area, not the oncoming traffic. Law enforcement officers should consider the same possible effects when using spot or takedown lights and take care to position these lights in a way where they do not directly shine at oncoming traffic in either direction. 2. Make the most of the emergency optical warning devices you have. Know your lighting package's capabilities and the manufacturer's recommendations for how those capabilities are best deployed in different conditions. Follow those recommendations and your agency's protocols. Many lighting packages are programmable, have different power or intensity settings, and come with options like different patterns. Too often, no one knows how to use these features. The devices can often be programmed to address visibility issues. 3. Take the difference between daytime conditions and nighttime conditions into account. Research has shown that day versus night conditions may require different lighting schemes. Higher intensity red lighting may be better for day. Lower intensity blue lighting may be better for night, a time when lights are more easily perceived against the darkness. Many lighting packages have different settings for characteristics like color, intensity, or pattern. Know your lighting package's capabilities and the manufacturer's recommendations for how those capabilities are best deployed in different conditions. Follow those protocols and local SOPs. 4. Don't rely on emergency lighting on vehicles to communicate what motorists should do. Emergency lighting is strictly a warning to motorists that something unexpected is happening ahead. Use temporary traffic control devices to direct motorists how to respond to the unexpected condition. Temporary traffic control devices like signs, cones, flares, arrow sticks, and rear deck lights can all be used to indicate which direction to flow around the work area. traffic control is as essential a part of your response as extrication and victim treatment are. Without effective traffic control, the scene is chaotic, drivers are confused, and a struck-by is more likely. Have a traffic control SOP based in best practices and follow it at every scene immediately upon arrival. Seek out more information in the Responder Safety Learning Network Traffic Control and Advanced Warning modules. 5. Bigger, brighter, faster warning lights may not be better. The Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices states that using too many lights can distract or confuse motorists approaching from both directions, especially at night. Instead of throwing everything you have at the problem, focus on clear identification of response vehicles and directional instruction to motorists. Clear vehicle identification begins with proper retroreflective markings. Learn more on the High Visibility Innovations module on the Responder Safety Learning Network. Proper traffic control devices that direct motorists can reduce the amount of emergency vehicle lighting needed. The MUTCD advises examining emergency vehicle lighting policies with the intent of reducing lighting use as much as possible without endangering people at the scene. 6. Don't let the moth-to-flame concept deter you from deploying emergency lighting. There is no empirical evidence that all drivers consistently drive toward emergency lights. Some drivers may unconsciously steer in the direction of their gaze if they are intensely fixated, but the reason for this behavior has not been proven to be emergency lighting. It's possible that any unusual activity can cause this reaction in some drivers. However, there is general agreement that a lack of visibility and conspicuity caused by non-existent, poor, or improper emergency lighting is a far greater danger than a possible moth effect. 7. Wear high visibility PPE at all times. Firefighters may wear turnout gear during suppression. Don't assume you are seen because there is a light. Studies of pedestrian visibility and warning lamps have found that the biggest factor that makes pedestrians easy to see is high visibility PPE. Wear it. Now, let's look again at the scene that started this module. But this time, the emergency lighting setup has been revised to not only give responders what they need to work, but also to make the scene visible to motorists and make it clear how to safely pass the scene. When you are about to start working a scene, doing what you do best, saving lives, make it part of your protocol to consider that scene from the motorist's perspective and incorporate that into the emergency lighting and temporary traffic control devices you deploy. The life you save might be your own.
All right, now let's see here. Let's go to, I think it's there, and here's the test. I will scroll slowly. Okay. So like I say, it may benefit you, it may not. But knowing what's going on out there and what people are trying to do, you know, to make everybody safe, and how we react out there and what we're up to, it kind of helps everybody, I would think. Again, I'm sorry I can't give you the answers, but it wouldn't be fair for those who are taking the test. So, catch you later.